Simu, nice to see you again.
It's so good to see you, Tom.
Congratulations on everything.
Thank you.
It's funny, the last time I saw you, I think I said to you on the way out, like, I think I might have grabbed onto you and said, like, get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
I remember grabbing onto you and
I
saying,
didn't listen, clearly.
Yeah, I said, yeah, you have not left. I remember seeing, like, this is sort of the last I'm going to see you before everything changes for you, because it was the day of the premiere.
Oh, yeah.
And how it has changed for you.
It's changed a little bit, yeah. It's hard to go to restaurants now without, I mean, I can still go to the restaurant, that's fine. But no, people tend to stare and then ask for photos, which, happened, I think, very sporadically back in the day.
Yeah.
We were on a beautiful little show. It was all very family friendly and wholesome. And so, the fans that we got were always very respectful and very, just like very, very friendly. And I think the fandom for a superhero movie is maybe like a little bit different. I won't say they're not friendly, but they're definitely more enthusiastic, more aggressive, just more.
Yeah.
In general.
How's being home then? I mean, this is the first time you've been back in Toronto in how long?
I think it was back like briefly, like I'll take trips back for like maybe 2 or 3 days at a time. So I think I was back last in like November, but I've spent like all month here, all of February. So that's been the first time for a while since maybe spring of last year.
And are there things you have to do while you're home? Are there?
I mean, I have to see my parents for controlled periods of time, as long as there's an exit strategy in play. No, I mean, I love them to death. Can't live with them ever again.
Can't live with them.
But,
can't live without them. Yeah.
That's what it is, Tom. They can never go away in your life, but you got to keep them little arms. No, I'm kidding. But it's good to. I always say it's good to be back. It's nice to be in a city where you just kind of know where everything is. I love my restaurants here. I love my pie. I love my miku. I love my Fishman Lobster Clubhouse. So I'll just like call up all my friends when I'm in the city, and I'm like, all right, we're just gonna start the rotation, and then I kind of just love seeing everyone. It's a city that gives me a lot of life, and sometimes other cities are a little bit different because they take life away and they take your energy. But Toronto's good, yeah.
And there's a sequel to Shang-Chi announced, right?
Yeah, I think we're doing another one.
What goes through your head when you realize you have to take that role on again?
I think I'm really excited to like do it better.
What do you mean?
I think when I think back to my experience shooting the first one, I think I just spent so much of it like in a constant state of terror of like myself, of the movie not doing well. Like it was just a very anxiety-ridden process. That was one of the most fulfilling experiences of my life. But the chance to kind of go back and revisit and to take on that character one more time is very exciting for me, because I feel like I've settled in a little bit. I'm not trying to prove myself. It's not like I have the added pressure of like introducing myself to the world. It's just, let's just see if we can have more fun on the second one than we did in the first.
Can we talk more about that? Because there was, last time we talked, it was the night of the premiere, and there was so much pressure around the film. Not just that the film would succeed, but that the film would succeed in a theater where, in my opinion, the film sort of deserved to be seen, you know? And you and I talked a little bit about that. With the right screen, with the right speakers, that it sort of was deserving of the movie-going experience. It ends up really working out, grosses over $400 million, like just does incredible, and we can sort of reflect on it now. So when that discussion was happening, will this work out? Will this work out in the theaters? What was that like for you? And what was it like when it all sort of started to work out?
Yeah. I don't want to say that I was surprised, but I think just the world being what it was impossible to really predict anything. But what we did have was we had, Black Widow in, I think it was July. And when Black Widow came out, and, it did, I think, extremely well, even for, a same-day Disney Plus release. It did incredibly well at the theater. I think everyone was like very cautiously optimistic. And then of course September rolls around and you have a variant that hits, and then all of a sudden people are like, I'm not sure if I want to go to the theater anymore. So then I think all of that was contributing to this sense of uncertainty and anxiety surrounding not only the movie, but like the box office in general.
And did you feel that?
Yeah, definitely. Because I mean, in my mind, I was like, you know, when I was cast in 2019, before anyone ever knew about a pandemic, this was $1 billion movie, easy. And there wasn't any doubt in my mind that that was gonna happen. And then, you know, all of a sudden we're in this world where if something makes, you know, more than a couple $100 million, it's like a huge, huge deal. So we've had to like manage our expectations so many times and in so many different ways. But it was definitely leading up to the premiere of the movie. It was like, okay, well, you know, if you were listening to what, you know, some of the trades were saying, they were like, Shang-Chi is gonna open at 35 mil. Shang-Chi is gonna flop like big time because, you know, there's no star attached because it's a new property. There's not like any like visible tie-in to the Marvel universe. And my God, it just ended up happening for us.
When did you know that it happened? When were you able to shake some of that anxiety and expectation off?
Well, we got, you know, I think heading into previews, just because, you know, I have a wonderful team that's maybe like a little too diligent with their information. So we had like all of like the Thursday preview projections and then like the weekend stuff. So we were getting reports every day. And like leading up to September 3rd, I think there was generally a sense of like, oh, it's better than people expected.
Right.
So I was like, okay. And then by the end of that Labor Day weekend, it was like we broke a Labor Day box office record in the middle of a pandemic. So I think that was the point where I was like, I started to like calm down a little bit. I was like, okay, I think people are gonna watch this.
Well, ostensibly we're here to talk about music and talk about you and the Junos.
Sure.
So can we pop the headphones on just for a second?
Yep.
I want to play you something.
Oh boy. This always makes me nervous, Tom.
Nah,
What are you gonna play me now?
It's nothing you won't expect. It's nothing you won't expect.
All right.
Yeah.
Now I wonder if you'd be proud that I made the soup on my own, and I miss you.
You can take them off if you want. Do you want to say what we listened to?
Okay, so we listened to a song called Hot Soup, which I sang and was on the Shang-Chi soundtrack. And I knew you were I knew it.
Deal with it.
Well done.
Thank you.
I'm dealing with it.
Tell me a little bit about what that song means to you, because it's more than just a song from the soundtrack.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, it was something that came together. I was initially asked to do just some promo for the soundtrack. I mean, it was a really big moment, like obviously the movie was, but also the soundtrack that came with it, because we featured so much Asian and Asian American talent. So it was a big moment, and I was asked to just kind of do a couple of things on social media. And I kind of like took the opportunity to pitch myself. I was like, hey guys, I like to sing. I like to, maybe we could try like working together. Just like that, a little shoulder shimmy. And then they were like,
Thank you for the radio shoulder shimmy, letting people know there was a shoulder shimmy, by the way. That was great, thank you.
I'm very considerate.
You
You'll
are,
know this
yeah,
about me, Tom.
I appreciate it.
So then, you know, there was a song. They were like, we haven't really found our singer for it, but why don't you give it a try? And, you know, that was the song that became Hot Soup. And it was a song really about loss. You know, if you listen to the lyrics, it's about, you know, hot soup is the feeling of, you know, it's that warm feeling that you feel when your mom makes you her famous soup. You know, and it's that feeling of being taken care of as a child and feeling like everything was gonna be okay. And so the song is about losing that feeling, you know, and remembering the soup just as mom used to make.
How do you relate personally to that feeling? Because it seems like you do.
Yeah, I heard the song and I kind of felt it immediately on a very visceral level, because I actually lost my grandparents last year.
I'm sorry.
And thank you. And they, you know, they played such an integral role in my life in my early years, because I might have told you this already, but I was raised by my grandparents when I was little, because shortly after I was born, my parents actually left China to move to Canada.
Yeah.
And, you know, the plan was to kind of set up shop in Canada and be a little bit more stable on their 2 feet before bringing like a young infant boy over. And so my grandparents, my yeye and my nai were my parents, were my guardians, were my caregivers, and we were, we would spend every day together. We all slept in the same bed, and they were that sense of safety and security for me. They were that sense that everything was going to be okay. And so when I lost them, it was really hard because I just felt that piece of my childhood go with them. And so the song, and more than anything, is a way to remember them.
I mean, that happened right as your life changed too.
Yeah.
Like the if you, and by the way, if you don't want to talk about this,
No.
we'll cut it all out.
No.
The ground goes from underneath you as your life completely changes with this role.
Yeah, my grandparents actually passed around the time that we were doing reshoots for the movie, and my parents were so scared that it would affect my performance or that I would stop production to come back home that they didn't tell me.
Oh my God.
And they only told me once I came home to visit after. And it was a huge shock, and not in any way do I hold it against them, because I understand and I can only imagine what they were going through, But it was a huge shock to, yeah, exactly as you described. It suddenly felt like the floor was gone from underneath me. They were with me through so much of my life, and they were one of the first people who found out that I had booked the role initially, and even in those last few weeks, before we knew anything was wrong, my dad would say, like, he would play the trailer for the movie over and over again. So I guess in some small part, it does make me happy that they were able to see a small piece of it. Their grandson that they raised in Harbin, China, dressing up as a superhero
And inspiring millions of people, I'm sure there were some proud of you, is what I'll say.
Thank you.
Were you a singer? Like, I didn't know you as a singer until I heard that.
Oh, I don't know. I think you're being a little generous, but I always fancied myself one. When I was a kid, like I was 12 or 13, I made a boy band with some other kids in my middle school called LX4.
Oh, hold on. So you made a boy?
We made a boy band, yeah, as if it were that easy. Yeah, I was the one that took it the most seriously out of all four of them, to be fair. But the boy band was called LX4 because it was 4 Asian kids, and all of our last names started with L. Like I was Simu Liu, and then we had a Jason Leung and a Adrian Lee and a Mike Lee. So shout out to them if they're listening. And then we were like, this is the coolest thing ever, and we made one song.
What was the song? You got to tell me.
It's called For You, and it's on what's called the Twig Tape. So the Twig Tape for our high school was like an all-student made album, like a student-produced album that was released every year. That was like a compilation of some of the more musically inclined students of the school. And so our friend Joanne wrote us a song, played it on the piano, and then we sang to it.
What was the song? Do you remember any of it?
I can remember it. I just don't want to tell you. I'm sure if you dug, and this is not an invitation for you to dig, but if you dug, I'm sure you would find it.
Did you have matching outfits? Did you perform?
No, see, I never got to that level. Like, I wanted it to get there.
Yeah.
But then, I feel like it was like my pressure that I was putting onto the group that really like tore us apart in the end, because everyone was like, this is stupid, and I was like, this is the best thing ever. Guys, we need to take this seriously. At one point, I was talking to my friend Adrian, because we were working together on my book, but Adrian was like, I want to show you this email, and it was an email that I had sent to the whole group, and I was like, I think we should get our music teacher to manage us if we want to take it big. Like, it was the stupidest thing.
You were the Timberlake. You were the...
I don't know that I mean, Timberlake was like the talented one. I don't know.
You were the JC Chazé. You were the guy who was keeping the train
I was
on the track.
like I don't want to besmirch any member of NSYNC, because I think all 5 of them are great.
Me too.
I was like the guy who thought he would, yeah. I don't know.
I'm holding back on a couple of names here, but I'm not going to say it. Oh, but didn't you do I Want It That Way on SNL?
I want it that way on SNL. I mean, you know, boy band.
Yeah, because there's a
bands
boy band
play-
thing I'm seeing here.
Yeah, it's a trend, right? It's like a reoccurring theme in my life. The best way that I could probably describe it is that I had a childhood crush in sixth grade. Her name was Jackie. I'm not going to say her last name because then you will know.
Jackie, you know who you are.
Yeah, you know, you're listening. And I was like head over heels over Jackie.
Right.
And Jackie was, of course, was with Thomas.
Don't mind saying his last
I
name.
don't
do you?
like no, not him, not him. You know, he was like a 12-year-old like Aaron Carter lookalike with frosted tips.
Oh man. Yeah.
And
that's who you're going
yeah,
for
let
these
the
days.
record show that I'm doing this interview right now with blonde hair.
Yeah.
But I
So
Jackie
you liked
was,
her. You liked her a lot.
I liked her a lot, and Jackie was super into NSYNC and boy bands, and so I guess in my mind, like the mental calculus was like, if I were more like NSYNC, then maybe Jackie would like me. And it was part of like a greater, just like personal issue with self-confidence and not being able to be myself and not knowing how to talk to, you know, girls. But yeah, I think that's where it all came from.
Can I ask you something about SNL?
Please.
I find so you hosted Saturday Night Live. It was a really big deal. I was, you know, I know we don't know each other that well, but we've seen each other enough
Yes.
at this and that.
You've
and
been in my life.
I have, and you've been in mine. And I felt and I stayed in, I watched it, and I felt a great sense of pride while I was watching it. So I wanted to ask a couple of things about it. One is that I find the whole thing very mysterious and very interesting, like the whole machine behind it. You know, famously, you show up, you meet the cast in Lorne Michaels' office. You're meeting people throughout the week. You're doing these sketches, oftentimes with cue cards. You're doing sketches that you've never seen before. You're live on television. I'm guessing that doesn't happen that often, that you're live on television. Can you take me into it a little bit and tell me like one highlight of the week that'll stick with you? But also, I don't want to say like a low light, but a challenge you faced during the week.
Yeah, for sure. I'll start with the challenge because that's just like so fresh in my mind. I think the challenge is that, and this is by design, by the way, like Lorne and everybody at SNL, Lindsay Shookus, I'm gonna shout out, she was incredible and really like held my hand along the way. She was like the producer of my week. It's really like, they really ramp up to Saturday. Like your Monday is like a 15-minute Zoom meeting where they're like, great, like, do you have any ideas? And I was like, not really, I kind of want to do a music video. And they're like, great, like, do you have any impressions? And I was like, I could do a Palpatine. And they're like, great, would you do a Palpatine for us? And I was like, once more the Sith will rule the galaxy. And they're like, okay, no, that's enough, that's okay. And then they're like, well, yeah. And then Tuesday rolls around and it's like 2 hours in 30 Rock and you're meeting all the writers and they're like, great, awesome. And then Wednesday is a 4-hour table read. And that's the moment where you're like,
It's all the sketches too, right?
yeah,
The stuff that doesn't go on.
It's like 40 sketches. Wow. So it's all of the different writers, and they're really just like ideas at this point, but they're really just kind of seeing what works, what doesn't, hearing stuff out loud. And then, you know, at the end of that, you're like already kind of winded and exhausted because the last couple of days you've just not been doing all that much. But then you meet with Lorne and all the writers in Lorne's office, and then we pick the show together. And then by Thursday, it's like you're in at 8 a.m. and you're rehearsing all day. And then by Friday, it's like a 7 a.m. call time. You're doing like a short, you know, you're doing one of the digital shorts, and then you're doing a full day of rehearsal. You're doing Fallon at one, I think, yeah, I did Fallon in between, because, you know, it's all in 30 Rock. So they literally are like, great, you're gonna go downstairs and do Fallon, and then you're gonna come back up, and you're gonna do a fitting, and then you're gonna do rehearsal. And then we did a photo shoot at some point during the week. Like, it's all such a blur. And then of course Saturday, you're just like running. You're running the show. You run it without costumes. You run it with costumes. You do a dress rehearsal, and then it's like you're live. And it's almost, you know, I say it's by design because it's almost like Lorne wants you to be so tired that you're not thinking about the nerves. You're not thinking about the people or the cameras or the cue cards. You're just like, what do I need to do to get through this day?
Yeah.
And you're just going step by step, putting one foot in front of the other. And oftentimes it just means that you're not in your head because you're just doing it.
What was the best part of the week? What was the highlight of the week?
Meeting Pete Davidson Met him on Saturday. I was like, where you been? He's like, I've been in Palm Springs. I'm like, cool. He's cool.
He's leading a different life than everybody else.
And then he gave me props, and I haven't washed this hand ever since.
I could tell.
So I just, you can tell.
I could tell.
Is
Yeah.
it the smell?
Yeah,
or
it
is
was. I
the-
didn't want to say anything,
Fair enough.
but yeah.
Fair enough.
Did you and Lauren talk about being from Canada?
We did, yeah. It's so funny because I was like hanging out with like some of the cast members. I think it must have been like Bowen or Cecily, who was like, "Oh, when you see Lauren, like he's gonna mention that he's Canadian like you, and he's gonna mention that he went to the same high school as Drake." And I'm like, "Okay, sure." And then lo and behold, like Lauren calls me into his office, and he's like, "So, from Toronto?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "I went to the same high school as Drake." No way, that's incredible. No, but he's amazing. I mean, he's just like, first of all, like such an icon and a legend. I mean, anybody would say that, but he is like, after all of these years, still so actively invested in the show.
Yeah.
And you can tell there's just like a methodical genius to the way that he's just. Like when he's looking at the board and he's got all the sketches out like on cue cards around him, he's like building the show in his head, and then he's like, great, we'll start with this, we'll go with this, we'll cut off to a digital short. Like it's just, and he'll just do it.
I want to play you something from that night. Just take a listen to this. But pop
Okay, of course.
Pop the headphones on one more time for me.
Simu, what's up, my fellow yellow fellow? Nothing, I'm just nervous, I think. I mean, this has never happened before, right? Asian male host, Asian male cast member. I just think it's weird that people keep track of this stuff, though.
Oh, yeah, totally. I just got this. First Asian man to move from Canada to America named Simu.
Oh my God, I have one that says Bowen.
Hey, I have another award for first Asian man to do a Cher impression on NBC, but it doesn't say who it's for.
If I could turn back time.
Simu wins.
Yes!
So that's you in a sketch on Saturday Night Live with Bowen Yang. Tell me, I have a question about the sketch that's going to be a little bit one of those, hey, it's a funny sketch, but I got a question about it.
Of course.
But first, can you set up the sketch for people who haven't seen it?
So the setup of the sketch is like, it's very meta, one of those like very famous SNL digital shorts that are about SNL. And it's me, I kind of knock on Bowen's door, and obviously Bowen is an Asian American cast member. I'm an Asian Canadian actor, and we kind of just talk about how historic that is. But then it starts kind of like spiraling out of control when we just start comparing all of the firsts we've had. And it's kind of a commentary on something that's very prevalent in our community right now, which is talking about firsts and like just the mania that can get to sometimes when it's like, first Asian lead superhero of the MCU, first East Asian lead cast member of SNL, who is also a writer, first Asian Canadian who moved from Mississauga to Toronto and then Hollywood. Like some of these titles that we've been given get pretty ridiculous, and so it's us like making fun of that, making fun of ourselves, and also like making fun of how seriously we do take it sometimes. 'Cause who doesn't want to be the first?
And I've been spending a lot of time talking about this recently, is that, so there's an honor that comes with the first, being called the first.
Sure.
And there's a weight that comes with the first. There's also like an annoyance that like, how am I the first? What does being the first in any of those scenarios mean to you? And what goes through your head when you hear the word?
The word first?
Yeah. In regards to your career.
Yeah, absolutely. It's happened a couple times. Been a part of these, these big kind of flagship, diverse projects since Kim's Convenience in 2016. It is an honor, absolutely. I mean, I've been asked something like 4 million times by now just what the weight of that is, and of course it's like, well, you are showing people not only people who look like me, but people who look like you, that we belong and that we exist and that we have stories that might not be exactly the same as yours, but are a part of the fabric that make up our world and our society. I think that's incredibly important. And then the other part that's kind of sprouted up in recent months and years is like, oh boy, here we go again. It's the press, it's the clickbait, it's the sensationalism of like the first, they're grabby headlines, right? And so of course, like if there is a first out there, it's kind of like people will find it,
Yeah.
will put it front and center on the on the cover of the whatever,
Yeah.
and that'll be the grabby headline that everyone wants to click on. But I totally, I love the sketch because it's just it finds a way to deconstruct that so well. It's like first Asian to deadpan on Splash Mountain, first Asian person to pick 2 at Panera. Like, I think it's a great way to let the audience know that we get it. Like, we're not buying into this. Like, I am the first person named Simu to become a Marvel superhero shooting a movie, and it's like we're in on the sense of humor as well, and I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it is an SNL first Asian-centric sketch on SNL, which I very much appreciate.
I don't have a plaque for that
damn it.
with me at hand, but
No.
I'll see if I can grab one for you from Bowen.
I'll take it on a mug, thank you.
Do you know
On
what?
a famous Q mug.
All we can offer are paper
Is
cups. I have a couple more questions for you now before we go to something a bit more fun and a bit more about the Junos. But so it's been a big change. You and I first met. You were on Kim's. I ran into you one time at the Canadian Screen Awards, and I think you can. This is going to sound silly, but it means something to me. That I think when you go to the Canadian Screen Awards, you can drop into Le Chateau and put on a jacket and still look pretty good at the Canadian Screen Awards. No disrespect to the Canadian Screen Awards, but when you
To Le Chateau.
yeah, no, to Le Chateau.
Famously
no,
Canadian.
No, lots of disrespect to Le Chateau. Yeah, they know what they did. When you go to the Met Gala, when you are involved in sort of the Vanity Fair world, your relationship with clothes must change.
Yeah, that's right. I remember, I literally, like Ted Baker dressed me for the last 2 Canadian Screen Awards that I went to, and it was because I had a friend, Jorge, that I met playing, recreational volleyball, and Jorge was like an Argentinian ex-pro who worked in retail. He was like a manager at Ted Baker, and he was like, dude, we would, so, dude, we would love to dress you. And so I would subway up to Yorkdale Mall where he worked, and he would put me in a suit. And I'd be like, this is awesome. And he'd be like, great, take this, go to the Canadian Screen Awards, and then I'd have to zip it up, clean everything up, and then subway it back up.
Oh,
to him.
that's great. That's
Right?
so good.
And I'd be like, thank you so much.
Yeah.
And now you're right. Yeah, things are a little bit different. I have a stylist that works with me because there is no way in hell that I would be able to do this on my own. I don't even know 3/4 of the things that she ever puts me in. So how would I ever look for them? But she's incredibly talented. Her name is Jean Yang, and all of this is now her world. And I guess the broader conversation of that is now I'm no longer like a one-man show, I guess.
Yeah.
So that's been an interesting transition in my life where I have, I guess, both the luxury and the kind of the weird experience of delegating these parts of my life.
It is.
Right?
That is sort of the broader part of it. And also when you put it on, if you put on a big, I don't even know a brand, but you put on a very expensive suit to go to the Met Gala or something like that.
And then how do you say no? How do you know, and then how do you know what you don't know? How do you know, if you say, I like it, what does that even mean?
Yeah.
If you like it, does that mean that, based on your fashion sense that is already outdated, that you feel like this is good? Or if you don't like it, does that mean that your taste isn't good enough, or does it mean that it doesn't feel right for you? And then, how do you learn to trust yourself in the midst of all that? I mean, that's all stuff that'll make you go crazy.
But it reminds me of what Kurt Cobain said one time. I mean, he said they don't give classes in this stuff. There's no classes on how to be famous.
Yes, there are no classes. I have found though that there are people out there that will kind of send the elevator back down, or they'll reach out and they'll say, hey, I think I know what you're going through. Drop by the house. We'll have a chat. So for me, I mean, I don't want to out anybody, but yeah, there have been a couple of people, some of them Canadian, let's just say, who have been just so generous with their time and their advice, and just making me feel like I'm not going through this thing alone, because it's the best thing that it's the ride of a lifetime, but it's also highly, highly unnatural, and just impossible to navigate on your own without making some sort of mistakes.
Well, that's a good way to close things before we get to to the silly part. Is that I've been reading this translation of the Buddha recently. You know, the Buddha famously said, "Life is suffering," right? And the translation I read recently that meant a lot to me was, "Life is unsatisfactory." That essentially the wanting of something will never quite be as good as the getting of something. Or sorry, the wanting of something is always better than the getting.
Better than the getting, yes.
You know, ordering something on Amazon gives you that great feeling that the getting of it doesn't.
Jason just burst out laughing.
Because he knows. He
my
knows.
best, he's constantly ordering on Amazon.
Simu's buddy. Because come on, the getting it is not as good as the ordering.
And now with Prime, it's just like that window is so short, you just get it the next day.
Okay, so what if it's not Amazon Prime, but it's wanting a Marvel movie? Like you have spent your entire, so many years when I knew you were on Kim's, talking about it, desiring to be in a Marvel movie, waiting for the movie to come out, getting cast in it, shooting it, and waiting for the moment. How does the wanting of it meet the reality of it?
Tom, I have to say, getting a Marvel movie is probably that one thing that actually getting it was so much better than even just the anticipation. And I think what it is because the Marvel movie is something that you work. Like it's something that took an immense amount of work. And so I take a lot of pride in what I did, and I have a lot of fond memories of the people that I did it with. It was the experience, and that in and of itself was a journey. But if you asked me about fame as a thing that I wanted
and you
before,
did.
and I did,
yeah,
I could say, as an actor, as really just a human being who felt invisible most of his life. I mean, I thought that sounded pretty good. People yelling and screaming your name and knowing who you are, and like in admiration and respect. I mean, I would say that's been, now that I've kind of crossed over and are now firmly on the other side, I've realized, there's definitely two sides to it. And the reality of being in a position where you don't necessarily have the same privacy as you did before. You don't have the personal space. You don't have the space to make mistakes or to say the wrong thing or to, be your true kind of vulnerable, imperfect self is hard. Yeah.
Yeah, I bet. I bet it is. But I'm glad you're able to be present in it. Really, because that's what the question is, if you really think about it.
And I mean, it's so easy to be present when you've got these nice clothes on. So thank you, Gene. My God.
These presents. You're back in Toronto to host the Junos. We put together rapid fire Toronto questions.
Okay, let's do it.
Home for a quick visit. You have time to go to one restaurant. Which is it?
Pie.
Back it up. Why?
Best Thai food in the city,
it is
country,
really,
maybe.
It is really good.
Right?
Yeah. Best song to listen to as you're driving around the city?
Oh my God, Justin Bieber. Justin Bieber, his latest album is so good. I love Ghost.
Is that I don't know that
That's
song.
a Justin Bieber song. If I can't be close to you, I'll settle for the ghost.
Oh yeah, that's a good song. I do know that song.
Which incidentally is about loss as well.
I love that song.
Yeah, it's a great song.
I like that
Great
Beaches
song.
Down in Georgia song too. Yeah, that's good. I like that one. Can't curse, but I like it.
Can't curse. No.
Raptors, Leafs, or Blue Jays?
Raptors. Tom, I'm disappointed you even have to ask.
I didn't want to include the Leafs at all, but I had to. Drake or The Weeknd?
Come on.
Let's make a GIF out of that eyes I just got when I asked that question. By the way,
tough one. I would say it's narrow because I love them both. If you give me like early Drake.
Yeah.
Early Drake, baby, you my everything. You all I ever wanted. We could do it real big. Oh, I love that.
Early Drake is the answer.
Early Drake.
Got it. Favorite Canadian band? You can't say Soul Decision.
Damn it. Can I say B44?
You can say B44. Yeah, you can.
We're on a boy band tear right now, and I just even though I did not know what their song was about when I first listened to it, it's still very catchy.
If you get down, and then we don't have to do it.
Do we? I mean, we could.
Yeah.
If you get down on me, I'll get down on you. Oh yeah.
I'll do anything
that you want me to. Yeah.
Favorite TV show set in Toronto?
Oh no, I guess it's not Suits. Suits was filmed in Toronto and set in Kim's Convenience.
Burlington. Oh, yeah,
Kim's Convenience. That's a pretty Toronto show,
Yeah.
right? What else is set in Toronto? I guess like Degrassi.
Kim's,
never-
Kim's Degrassi?
Kim's or
Kim's or Kim's.
I'll say Kim's.
I mean, you got to.
Yeah, kind of.
You're hosting the 2022 Junos happening May 15th in the city you grew up in. What does that mean for you to get to host?
Huge honor. I loved I think I love the opportunity to get up, on a stage and to entertain. It's something that I didn't know that I really had a knack for before SNL. But I'm kind of like coming off of it. I'm kind of like feeling it a little bit, and I wonder I'm definitely going to take what I learned and try to apply it to the Junos and try to make it as fun of an experience as I can for everyone watching. And then, trying to see who will step into those famous skits with me. Seeing who will we get? Do a little celeb cameo.
I was thinking maybe a little duet with somebody might be
Oh,
fun.
hey, that'd be nice.
You could do like a 90s Much Music, early 2000s Much Music duet thing. When the night is over at the Junos, what will you do to celebrate?
Probably go to Chinatown. Mm-hmm. Probably go to House of Gourmet or Rolsan or something. It's one of my favorite things to do. I don't drink alcohol.
Oh, yeah?
So I would love to say I would, to go out somewhere, and maybe I still will for everyone around me. But I just look forward to food because I probably won't eat before.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Pretty nervous, anxious state, and then like once it's all finished, it's like a massive come down, and then you're like, I am so hungry.
Well,
Food.
I'm really looking forward to it.
Thank you. You should come.
I'll be there.
Preemptively, I'm inviting you to Chinese food after the Junos.
Listen, as always, I love how much we get to talk these days. Incredibly
too.
proud, and such a joy to talk to you. Thanks
Thank you.
Thanks for the
Likewise.
chat.
Likewise.